Our first task is to define what it is we are studying. What is environmental science? What do you think? Seriously, pause the video for a moment and consider what might be a good definition. Did you come up with something? Be sure to not use the word environment in your definition, as it's best not to use the stem of the word you are trying to define in your definition. Your textbook offers a good definition. An interdisciplinary field of research that draws on the natural sciences, the social sciences, and humanities in order to understand the natural world and our relationship to it. That's a pretty good definition. Let's dissect it a bit. First, interdisciplinary. That means it uses many different disciplines. And I guess the second part of this first sentence could be omitted if we wanted a more concise definition. There. So, an interdisciplinary field of research that is used to understand the natural world and our relationship to it. Okay, so environmental science is interdisciplinary. It integrates many natural sciences, social sciences, and even humanities. Indeed, in order to understand and solve environmental issues, we will need to draw knowledge and expertise from a variety of academic disciplines. As an example, consider the issue of providing clean water to a community. What academic disciplines will help us better understand and manage our limited water resources here in a community in California? Pause the video briefly to come up with some answers. Well, first let's consider where the water ultimately comes from, rainfall. Thus, an understanding of meteorology, the study of weather, and climatology, the study of climate, would be useful. Also, chemistry, geology, and biology will help us ensure that the water is safe to drink. And physics and engineering will help us design a pipeline delivery system. Many subfields of hydrology, the study of water, will be useful, especially hydrogeology if our water source is groundwater rather than surface water. Further, geography will help us analyze the spatial distribution of our water resources in our state. Goodness, we just mentioned about 10 different natural science fields, and we could continue: ecology, agronomy, etc. Now let's shift to the social sciences. Just because we understand the chemistry, physics, biology, etc., does that necessarily mean that we will now automatically manage our water in the best possible manner? What else comes into play? What social sciences will help us manage our limited water supply? Pause here and come up with some answers. Economics is undoubtedly important. What are people willing to pay for water? What costs should be passed on to the consumer? What about the cost of ecological damage to fisheries as we take more and more water from streams? Political science will help us understand how we divide up the resource among different cities, shareholders, etc. Psychology, anthropology, and sociology will all help us understand how individuals and societies make decisions regarding water use, and also hopefully help us to come up with equitable solutions. And the field of law will help us create the framework necessary to ensure that we follow the rules we make for using our water. Lastly, for now, demography, the study of human populations, will help us understand how much more water we might need in the future. But wait, there's more. Let's consider the humanities. History will shed light on how our past practices have shaped the current situation. And religion shapes our cultural views and thus affects our decisions about how we relate to nature and to each other. Additionally, if there's any sort of political or cultural conflict or debate, it's likely that artists and musicians will step in and help raise awareness and cause us to revisit our laws and beliefs. Wow. That's a lot of different disciplines. The point is not to scare you away from the study of environmental science. You don't need to know everything about everything in order to begin. Rather, I want to stress how everyone's experience and knowledge is necessary to solve today's environmental issues. I imagine that some of you in this class may have already had a biology class, or a chemistry class, or a sociology class, or an economics class, and I hope that we can draw on your knowledge in our discussions. Additionally, I hope that what we cover in this class will provide you with valuable ideas that you can use later when you take a future class in biology, chemistry, sociology, economics, etc. One last comment on the interdisciplinary nature of environmental science. It will be helpful for you to think about environmental science as a study of connections and interactions. Indeed, the Earth is a system of interconnected parts and processes. What happens in one part of the world often has effects on seemingly unrelated communities in other parts of the world. All right, now let's finish our dissection of the definition of environmental science. We know it's interdisciplinary. Next, let's consider that it covers our relationship with the natural world. What do we mean by the natural world? We mean both the living and the non-living components of the Earth system. The living components are easy. We'll be concerned with how humans relate to fish and trees and bacteria and polar bears and whales and cockroaches and algae, etc. What is meant by our relationship with the non-living environment? Look around you. What components of the non-living environment are important? Pause the video and list a few to yourself right now before reading on. What did you come up with? How about air, or oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, etc.? Water, soil, minerals, rocks, energy sources like sun, oil, coal, natural gas, wind, waves, etc. Temperature, and you probably came up with things I didn't list. So we have a pretty good understanding now on our definition, what it means to be interdisciplinary, and what we mean by the study of the natural world. Notably, the definition also includes us, humans. It's about our relationships. My favorite definition clearly states the human focus and the living, non-living idea as well. Here it is. An interdisciplinary study of humans' relationships with other organisms and our non-living surroundings. You can see these two definitions show about the same thing. You can use whichever one you want. The important thing is that humans are highlighted. In fact, this is what distinguishes ecology from environmental science. Ecology is similar, but not the same. Ecology is the study of interrelationships among organisms and between organisms and their non-living environment. As we saw, environmental science goes one step further. It focuses on humans and our relationship to other organisms and to the non-living environment. Our next task is to consider why one might want to study environmental science. So again, think. Why are you taking Environmental Science 15? And or why is it an important thing to study? Seriously, bend your brain a bit. Pause the video and think of some answers to this question. Some semesters I ask students to answer this question on a discussion board or in a class discussion. Here are some of the verbatim responses students have given me to that question of why we should study environmental science. Pause the video and take a few minutes to read through them. These are just a few of the responses that I've written down over the years from student work. And they are all fine answers. Maybe you agree with some of the responses, and perhaps you can add a few new ones. Indeed, I firmly believe that the study of environmental science is vital, and that even in the short span of one semester, you will find meaningful ways to positively impact your life and the planet. Let's take one last look over the responses shown. Perhaps we can synthesize a few main ideas from these statements. Both natural resource loss and pollution were routinely mentioned. Also, several of the responses noted environmental science can make life better for us and for other organisms. And lastly, many statements referred to wanting the resources to last as long as possible, indefinitely. The idea that we want the environment to function well indefinitely is important. Clearly, natural resources are not infinite, nor is the ability for the earth to cleanse pollution. Thus, a large part of our study of environmental science will focus on how we humans can act to ensure that we extend the Earth's well-being over many, many, many generations, indefinitely. The buzzword associated with this idea is sustainability. Or you could say we humans are striving for sustainable development. Our next little clip will deal with sustainability and sustainable development. But right now I encourage you to go back to the course intro page and look at the learning objectives and begin writing out answers to any of the learning objectives that you have mastered. This will help you a great deal on our first exam. Then come back and check out the next clip.